I turned 43 on a Friday. Nobody at the depot made a thing of it, which was exactly how I preferred it. The shift had run long, a discrepancy on an inbound manifest that the night supervisor needed signed off before I could hand over the loading bay. By the time I made it out to the parking lot, it was 6:22. The drive home takes 11 minutes when the roads cooperate and 16 when they don't. That evening, 11 minutes. I pulled into my usual spot in the garage below the building, took the elevator to the 4th floor, and walked the hallway toward Unit 412 with no expectations beyond a quiet evening, and whatever Renata had been vaguely suggesting she might make for dinner. She had mentioned the pasta dish I liked. Said she was thinking about it on Tuesday. That would have been more than enough. A meal I recognized, maybe something from the bakery on the corner, an early night. I had stopped requiring more than enough at some point over the preceding years. I couldn't have told you exactly when that shift happened, only that it had, and I had adjusted accordingly without grieving it. The apartment is on the 4th floor of a mid-rise in Walnut Hills, 1,200 square feet, 2 bedrooms, a west-facing balcony I used more in the summer when there was something worth looking at. I had been on the lease for 6 years, my name only, down payment sourced entirely from an inheritance my father had left me. Documented, tracked, inseparable from my name by any legal standard. Renata moved in when we married 4 years prior. She had never written a check for rent. The arrangement, as we had framed it, was that I covered housing and she contributed what she could from the boutique where she worked part-time by preference. It wasn't much. The boutique hours were her choice. She had told me early on that she needed room to figure out what she actually wanted to do with her life. I said that was fine. 4 years later, the figuring was still ongoing, and I had stopped asking for updates. I put my key in the lock, pushed the door open, and what hit me first was the sound. Voices. Multiple. The register of a room already mid-conversation, already comfortable, already arranged without me. The living room was full of women, 7 of them, maybe 8, distributed between the dining table and the couch. Wine glasses on the counter, the good plates out, platters of food I didn't recognize. The moment I came through the door, the conversation collapsed into silence the way conversation does when the person being discussed walks in. I recognized most of the faces, Renata's orbit, the yoga studio crowd, the networking group she'd joined the previous spring. Celeste Harding was in the armchair near the window, already leaning slightly forward like someone anticipating a performance worth watching. Vera Ashby was at the far end of the couch, quieter than the others, observing. I hung my keys on the hook by the door. Didn't realize we had company, I said. Renata was standing near the kitchen entrance. She had on the blue dress from the credit card statement, the one that had cleared at $220 from a boutique downtown. Her hair was done. She looked like she had been ready for this specific moment for the better part of an afternoon. "Surprise," she said. One of the women near the table raised her glass. A few others smiled the particular smile of people who have arrived ahead of the main event and are pleased about it. I walked to the refrigerator, got a beer, came back, and settled on the arm of the couch. Every person in that room was watching me. Renata still had the poise of someone holding a script she had memorized. She lifted her phone and looked at the screen. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said, louder than the room required. "About our marriage, about what needs to change." She swept her gaze briefly around the gathered faces, collecting the attention, then returned it to me. "Starting tonight, we're going to establish some new expectations." Celeste made a small sound of approval from the armchair. "First," Renata said, consulting her phone, "you need to communicate better. If you're going somewhere, if you're making plans with someone, I should know about it. I shouldn't have to wonder where you are." "That's just basic boundaries," someone said from the direction of the couch. A couple of nods. Second, Renata's voice had found its rhythm. "Initiative around this apartment. I should not have to ask you to do laundry or clean the bathroom. Those are things you should simply do without being prompted." More nods, a murmur of agreement. "And third," she paused the way people pause when they've saved something. "You need to step up financially. I'm tired of feeling like I'm the one carrying this household." What happened next I won't forget. Celeste began clapping. Not ironic, not polite. Actual sustained applause, hands meeting with conviction. Within seconds, she had company. 3 women, then 5, then most of the room was applauding. And Renata was standing in the $220 dress, absorbing every second of it like it was something she had earned. I drank some beer. I watched. When the applause faded, Renata looked at me directly. The question she asked was whether I could handle those expectations. I have something to say as well, I told her. The room shifted, not dramatically. A slight collective adjustment, a change in atmospheric pressure. Give me 5 minutes. I set my beer on the coffee table, stood up, and walked down the hallway toward the second bedroom. Behind me, I heard someone ask Renata what I was doing. She said she had no idea, but the certainty had left her voice. Whatever she had been expecting from me, it wasn't that. The second bedroom is where I keep my desk, and the filing cabinet, and a shortwave radio setup I hadn't touched in 2 years. The radio was pushed into the corner under a dust cloth. 4 drawers in the cabinet. What I needed was in the bottom one. 8 days earlier, the Saturday before last, I had spent 3 hours at that desk working through bank statements, credit card records, and screenshots I had been quietly collecting for the better part of 2 months. I printed everything, sorted it by month, and used a yellow highlighter on the entries that told the story most clearly. Then I put the stack in a manila folder, wrote nothing on the outside, and filed it in the bottom drawer. I had imagined producing it on a quieter occasion, a Sunday morning maybe, when there wasn't an audience, when the conversation could be private and contained. Renata had made the choice about how this evening would go, not me. I pulled out the folder, held it for a moment, and listened. From the living room, I could hear her voice over the lower murmur of the others, the pitch slightly elevated, working to hold the room's energy at the level she needed it. It wasn't quite landing. I walked back down the hallway. All of them watched me come in. I sat on the couch with the folder across my lap and took a moment to look at each face before I spoke. "All right," I said. "Let's talk about expectations." I opened the folder and removed the first document. This is our joint checking account statement for September. I kept my voice at the register I use when I'm going over freight paperwork. Level, informational, not performing anything. Renata said tonight that she feels like she's carrying this household financially. Let's look at that. I held up the page. My paycheck, direct deposit on the 15th. $1,980 after tax. Her paycheck, deposited on the 22nd, $610. I set it on the coffee table. Rent on this apartment is $1,200 a month. It comes out of my account on the 1st of every month and has for 6 years. I pulled out the next sheet. Utilities, averaged over the year, run about $170. Also mine. Car insurance on both vehicles, $162 a month. Mine. Groceries, I do the shopping most Sunday mornings, between $140 and $190 depending on the week. My card, this is private, Renata said. Her voice had changed registers. You don't get to do this. You announced your new rules in front of 8 people, I said. Sit down. She didn't sit, but she didn't move toward the hallway either, and neither did anyone else. I spread the October statement across the table beside the first one. Same picture in October. My income, her income. But here, I pointed to 3 highlighted lines. 440 at Nordstrom Rack. 290 at the boutique on Madison, different one from where she works. 180 at the spa on Erie. I looked up. I'm not saying she's not allowed to spend money. What I am saying is that the person in this room who described herself as carrying this household financially is not me. Celeste was no longer leaning forward. She was examining the table. One of the women I didn't know by name had reached for her wine glass and then set it back down without drinking from it. I work hard, Renata said. I'm allowed to treat myself. With your money? Absolutely. I set down the statement. But that's not the part one wanted to show everyone. I picked up my phone and opened the screenshots folder. About 4 months ago, Renata started going out more. Tuesday lunches, Thursday afternoon coffee. Occasional Saturdays when I was putting in overtime at the depot. I looked at her. You told me it was networking. You told me you were building professional connections, and I didn't question it. I found the first screenshot and held the phone mi pareja. The room could see the screen. This came through while Renata was in the shower in September. Her phone was face up on the kitchen counter. I didn't go looking for anything. The notification appeared on the locked screen while I was standing right there. The message on the screen read, "Thursday still on, can't wait, same place." The sender's name was Derek Galvin. Derek and Renata worked together at her job before the boutique, I said. They've been meeting every Tuesday and Thursday for at least 4 months. Some Saturdays as well. I pulled a small stack of receipts from the folder and laid them on the coffee table one by one. Lunch at Orchids at Palm Court, $91. Drinks at a bar on Prospect, just drinks, not dinner, $63. Lunch somewhere on 4th Street, $78, all on the card I pay off every month. She was using my overtime pay to take Derek Galvin to lunch. We're friends. Renata's voice was unrecognizable from the one that had opened the evening. The performance register was completely gone. That's all it is. We're just friends. Maybe, I said. Let me show you 2 more things. I scrolled to the next screenshot and read from it. This is a message Renata sent to Derek in August. I read it aloud. He treats me like I need permission every time I want to spend anything. It's exhausting. I scrolled again. September. You actually listen. He never does. I don't know why I kept thinking he would. The room was absolutely silent. Vera Ashby was looking at her hands. I'm not here to characterize what their friendship is or isn't, I said, placing the phone face down on the table. What I'm here to say is this. The woman who stood up 20 minutes ago and told this room that I don't contribute enough, don't do enough, don't show up enough, that same woman has been meeting another man twice a week on my money and telling him what a disappointment I am. That is the complete picture. You don't have the full picture, Renata said. Then correct any number I put on that table, I said. In front of everyone, correct it. She didn't. Celeste was the first one up. She reached behind the armchair for her coat, and the expression on her face was not anger. It was the specific discomfort of someone who has been made to look foolish and wants to be somewhere other than where they are. I'm mi pareja, sorry, she said. She was talking to me, not Renata. We had no idea any of this was happening. Then another woman stood. Then another. 2 more moved toward the door together without making eye contact with Renata. Vera was the last to get up. She stood, collected her bag, and paused at the edge of the living room. I'm sorry, she said, and she said it differently from the others, less mortified, more genuine. She looked at me for a moment and then walked out. The door opened and closed twice, and then a 3rd time. Then the apartment was quiet. Renata watched the last of them go. Wait, she said to the empty doorway. You don't have the context. He's framing this. But no one was left to hear it. She turned to me. Her eyes were wet. Her voice, when it came, was barely above a conversational level. It's your birthday, she said. You did this on your birthday. You planned it. I just brought paperwork, I said. I closed the folder and set it on the side table. Then I stood up. Divorce papers will be filed Monday morning. I met with my attorney last week. His name is Mercer. The apartment is in my name. The down payment came entirely from my father's estate and it's documented as separate property. You have 30 days to find somewhere else to stay. I looked at her evenly. I'm not putting you on the street, but I'm not living like this either. She said my name, the version of it she only used when she was out of other options. I walked down the hallway, went into the 2nd bedroom and closed the door. I sat on the edge of the desk chair in the dark for a while, not thinking about much in particular. Through the wall, I could hear her crying, and then I could hear her on the phone, her voice rising and falling in the particular pattern of someone explaining a situation they're still trying to frame in their own favor. I reached over and pulled the dust cloth off the radio equipment, just to look at it. The receiver sat exactly where I'd left it 2 years ago. Dials, frequency display, the external antenna cable coiled on the shelf above. I didn't turn it on. I just sat there with it in front of me until the sounds from the other room eventually went quiet, and then I went to sleep. I woke the next morning to 11 missed calls and 20-some text messages, all from Renata. I put the phone face down on the desk and got dressed, made coffee in the kitchen while she slept or didn't sleep. I couldn't tell, the bedroom door was closed. I left for the depot before 7. Saturday meant a half shift, out by noon. Nobody at work knew what had happened the previous night, and I intended to keep it that way. I wanted to move freight, sign off on manifests, let my mind go somewhere neutral for a few hours without anyone's opinion about my personal life entering the room. Around 11:30, a call came from a number I didn't have saved. I let it go. A minute later, it called again. I stepped out of the loading bay and picked up. "Is this regarding the unit at the Walnut Hills property?" A woman's voice, professional, already slightly apologetic before she'd gotten to anything apologetic. "Depends who's asking. This is Gwen from Caldwell Property Management. Your wife contacted us this morning about early lease termination options. We wanted to verify. Are both tenants planning to vacate?" I nearly laughed. "Less than 15 hours. "No," I said. "Just her. The lease is in my name only. She's not on any of the paperwork." A pause. She indicated it was a joint lease. "Check your records, my name, my signature, my deposit. She has no standing to terminate anything." "I understand. Thank you for clarifying. I apologize for the confusion." I hung up and texted Mercer immediately. "She's already making moves on the apartment. Can we push the filing to first thing Monday morning? Expedite delivery to Sunday if possible." His response came back in under 20 minutes. "We'll make it work. Expect delivery Sunday by early afternoon." When I got home that afternoon, Renata was on the couch with her laptop open and a pile of tissues on the cushion beside her. She had the look of someone who had been sitting in the same position for a long time. "We need to talk," she said. "Not right now. 5 minutes, please." I went to the kitchen, got a glass of water, came back. 3, I said. She closed the laptop. "I found a therapist. Her name is Holloway. She has availability on Wednesday evenings, and I've already looked at her schedule. We can go together. Just try it." "I'm not interested. After 4 years, you won't even try." I leaned against the doorframe. 4 years, I said. "All right, let's talk about 4 years." I took a drink of water. "For 4 years, I worked overtime whenever it was offered because we needed the income and I was the one willing to earn it. For 4 years, I covered rent, utilities, car insurance, groceries, and most of the cooking on weekday nights because I get home before you do. For 4 years, I told you I was building toward a house purchase because you kept saying the apartment was too small." I paused. "And for at least the last year of those 4, you were telling your friends I was controlling you and taking Derek Galvin to lunch on my credit card." "You're not perfect either," she said. "You shut me out. Every time I raised something that was bothering me, you turned it into an accusation." "Give me an example." "The couch. Last spring, when I wanted to replace the couch, you acted like I'd asked to demolish the building. The car needed rear tires and an inspection before the end of the month," I said. "I asked if we could wait 30 days. You agreed. And then you told Celeste Harding I wouldn't let you redecorate." She looked away. "The certification program," I said. "You told Vera the first refused to pay for it. I offered to cover the entire cost. You said you'd think about it and never mentioned it again." Then it became another example of how I hold you back. I pushed off the doorframe. "The papers are being delivered tomorrow. I'm not continuing this conversation." "My mother wants to talk to you," Renata said. "She wants to help mediate. Your mother told you at our wedding that you were settling. I was 10 feet away. She didn't mean it like..." She absolutely meant it. I picked up my keys. "I'm going to the hardware store. I'll be back in an hour." She said something else, but I was already through the door. I picked up caulk and weather stripping, things I'd been meaning to buy for weeks. Got back to find the bedroom door closed, no sounds from inside. Made a sandwich, ate it standing up at the counter. Watched something on my laptop without really following it. Then went to sleep in the second bedroom. The apartment was quiet all night. The divorce papers arrived Sunday at 12:40. Mercer sent me a confirmation text with a timestamp. I was at the hardware store a second time picking out paint samples for the living room when it came through. That evening, my phone rang 3 times from an unknown number before I answered it. Is this? I checked the name I was using. Is this the right number? Who is this? Derek Galvan. A pause. Renata called me. She told me what happened Friday. I want you to know, nothing happened between us. We were friends, that's all. I'm married. I have 2 kids. It was never anything beyond conversation. Does your wife know about the conversations? He didn't answer right away. That's what I thought, I said. I'm genuinely sorry, he said. I didn't understand the full situation. She made it sound like you two were basically already separated, like the marriage was finished from her side, and she was just waiting for you to catch up. She has a way of framing things. I should have asked more questions. I'm going to cut off contact with her completely. I should have understood what I was getting into months ago. That's the right decision, I said, and I hung up. Through the window, I could see Renata watching me from the kitchen table. When I came inside, she asked whether that had been Derek. I said yes. She asked what he'd said. He's done, I told her. You're on your own there. She looked at me the way someone looks when they've been counting on a door that just closed. Then she put her face in her hands. I sat down at the kitchen table with my laptop and spent the next hour looking at paint colors for the second bedroom. I had been thinking about a dark slate gray for a while, something that felt unmistakably like the room belonged to me. A text came in late that evening from Vera Ashby. I want to apologize properly, not in a doorway with everyone leaving. Would you be willing to meet for coffee? I think we owe you more than what we managed on Friday. I looked at it for a moment, then typed back. Sunday morning, Terrace Coffee on Marburg, 10:30. Her response came back in under a minute. Thank you, we'll be there. I noticed the we but didn't ask about it. Terrace Coffee is a neighborhood place that has been there long enough to earn its wear without looking neglected. Good coffee, front tables with a view of the street, a chalk menu board that hasn't changed much in years. I got there at 10:20, ordered a black coffee, and sat where I could see the door. Vera came in first. She spotted me, came over, and sat down without ceremony. Thanks for doing this, she said. Celeste is parking. She texted me last night asking if she could come. I hope that's all right. Fine, I said. Celeste arrived 5 minutes later carrying a folder, which I thought was an interesting choice for a coffee apology. She ordered something, sat down, and placed the folder on the table between us. After Friday night, I couldn't sleep, she said. Mi pareja, I went back through everything. Our group chat, everything Renata had told us over the past year. She opened the folder. I want you to see what we were actually working from. She slid the first page across to me. A message from Renata to the group chat, dated 7 months back. Owen won't let me buy a new couch. Says the furniture is fine. I feel like I have to justify every single purchase. What actually happened? Celeste asked. The car needed rear tires. I asked her to wait a month. She agreed to my face. I slid the page back. And that became the story she told you. Vera pulled up something on her own phone. This one's from around the same time. She said you forgot her birthday completely, made her order takeout alone. I drank some coffee. I was covering for a colleague who had a family emergency. I worked a double, got home close to midnight. We went to the restaurant she'd wanted the following weekend. I have the receipt. About $150. She never mentioned that part, Vera said quietly. She never does. Celeste flipped to another page. She told us you were working overtime to avoid being home, that you preferred the depot to being with her. I was working overtime because they offer time and a half on weekends, I said. I was building a savings account for a house, a bigger place, because she kept saying the apartment was too small. I showed her the balance once. She said it wasn't enough yet. I looked at Celeste, and that became me hoarding money. Celeste closed her eyes for a second. God, the certification program, Vera said. She told us you said it wasn't worth paying for. I offered to cover the full cost. She said she'd think about it and never raised it again. Vera nodded like this answered something she'd already suspected. She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. Can I explain something about why we believed her mi pareja easily? Go ahead. Some of us in that group, she said carefully, have been through genuinely difficult situations, relationships where the financial control was real, where someone asking about the credit card bill was actually something that happened 6 times a day and came with consequences. She looked at me steadily. When Renata described you questioning her spending, it matched a pattern we recognized, one we'd been through, one we'd learned to take seriously. Mi pareja, you did. We did, except what you were doing was paying the bills. She paused. We know that now. We didn't ask for your side, Celeste said. We should have. We heard the language and we filled in the rest ourselves. I didn't say anything for a moment. Outside on Marburg, a couple passed with a dog. The leash pulled sideways. She told us you refused to support her going back to school, Celeste said, looking at another printout. That you said it was a waste, same as the certification program, I said. I offered to help pay. She said she'd think about it. I looked at the page. And then it became something I did to her. Vera set her phone down. The birthday dinner story was circulating in the group for months. We all thought you were the kind of person who forgot the things that mattered and then made excuses. Nobody questioned it because it fit the picture she'd been constructing. She paused. I don't think it was accidental. I think she needed us to have a specific image of you before Friday. Mi pareja that when she pulled out her phone, we'd already be on her side, Vera said. Yes, that's exactly what it was. Celeste looked uncomfortable. I clapped, she said. I actually started the clapping. I want you to know I haven't stopped thinking about that since I left your apartment. You believed what you were told, I said. That's not a character flaw. That's what happens when someone works a room long enough and consistently enough. Celeste folded the folder closed. What happens now? Papers were delivered yesterday. She has 30 days. After that it goes through the courts, but there's not much to divide. Apartment is mine, savings are mine. She takes what she personally brought in and what she bought herself. Where will she go? Vera asked. Her mother's, most likely. I finished my coffee. That part isn't my problem anymore. Vera was quiet for a moment. Do you feel guilty about any of it? She asked. I thought about that. The question deserved a genuine answer. No, I said. I don't. I feel like I've been carrying something heavy for a long time and I set it down. That's the most accurate way I can describe it. She nodded. Good. You should not feel guilty. You did more than most people would. She looked out the window at the street for a second. After my own situation ended, the real one I mentioned, it took me a long time to stop assuming every interaction was a trap, to stop waiting for the other shoe. Someone told me eventually that the work isn't learning to trust again. The work is just learning to recognize what decent actually looks like when it's in front of you. She looked back at me. You'll recognize it. Lisselitz paid for her coffee and headed out, pausing at the door to offer one more sincere apology before she left. Vera gathered her bag and then stopped. She posted something this morning, she said, vague, about giving everything and having it thrown back at her. Our group chat went quiet after Friday. A few people defended her at first, said you must have overreacted, but then some of them started going back through old conversations and asking questions she couldn't answer. She adjusted her bag strap. I don't think her version of events is going to hold the way she's counting on. Let her post, I said. The people who matter already know what happened. Vera smiled slightly. That's a healthy way to think about it. She left. I sat for another 10 minutes with a second cup, watching the Sunday morning street. Families with strollers, a man walking a retriever, someone unlocking a bicycle from the rack out front. Nothing dramatic. Just a normal Sunday in a city that didn't know or care what had happened in my apartment 2 nights before. On the drive home, my phone buzzed with a text from Renata. Vera and Celeste told me they met with you. You're turning my friends against me. This is exactly the kind of thing I always talked about. I read it at a red light, put the phone down, did not respond. When I got back to the apartment, Renata was in the bedroom. I went to the second bedroom, sat down at the desk, and looked at the radio equipment. This time I plugged in the power cable. The receiver hummed to life. The frequency display lit green. I put on the headphones and spent an hour moving slowly through the bands, not looking for anything specific, just listening to what was out there. A weather service broadcast, a numbers station reading in a flat, unhurried voice. Two men somewhere in Ohio or Indiana discussing grain futures. Up near the high end of the shortwave band, a voice in a language I couldn't place, calm and even, reading something I couldn't follow. I stayed on that signal for a while. There was something useful about listening to a voice that wasn't asking anything of you. 2 weeks after the birthday, Mercer called me at the depot on a Tuesday around noon. "She's retained an attorney," he said. "Fellow named Ashford. He's filed a response claiming she's entitled to a portion of the apartment's equity and requesting temporary spousal support." I set down the clipboard I was holding. "On what basis?" "On the basis that she contributed to the marital household during the marriage by maintaining the home and supporting your career, and that she sacrificed professional advancement in order to be available for the household's needs. His argument will be that she passed up full-time employment opportunities to be present. I have texts where she turned down 2 full-time offers because she didn't want the schedule," I said. "One was from a regional chain. Good pay. She said the hours didn't fit her lifestyle." "Send them to me today," Mercer said. "Here's where we stand on the apartment itself. The down payment came entirely from your father's estate. Documented, wire transferred, your name only on the deed and the mortgage. That's separate property under Ohio law. She contributed nothing to the purchase. Ashford knows this or will know it the moment we respond. The equity claim won't survive." A pause. "The spousal support request is harder to sustain. She'd need to demonstrate genuine inability to support herself. And given that she's demonstrably capable of full-time employment by her own history and stated preference, no judge awards ongoing support on these facts. Ashford is testing the edges. What do we do?" "We respond with the documentation. I expect he'll advise her to settle once he's reviewed everything. These kinds of claims tend to fall apart when the paper trail doesn't cooperate." He was right. The following Friday afternoon, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. "Mr." He used the name. "This is Ashford. I represent Renata in the dissolution proceedings. I'd like to explore a potential settlement." "Go ahead. My client is prepared to waive any claim to the apartment in exchange for a payment of $8,000 and an equal division of the shared furnishing." "Counter," I said. "0. She can take whatever furniture she personally purchased. I have receipts for everything I bought." A pause. "That's a firm position. It's a fair one. She didn't contribute to the down payment. She worked reduced hours by choice. The apartment is mine by every applicable legal measure. I'm not paying her to leave a lease she was never named on. I'll discuss this with my client and be in touch." He called back Monday morning. "She'll accept your terms. She'd like to schedule movers for next Saturday, if that's convenient." "I'll be out that day," I said. "She can have access from 9 to 4. Anything left after 4 stays." I drove to a friend's place in Hyde Park that Saturday. We watched college football, ordered pizza, talked about nothing in particular. When I got back to the apartment that evening, the couch was gone. The decorative shelving Renata had picked out was gone. The kitchen table she'd bought 2 summers back, gone, along with 4 of the 6 chairs. The framed prints from the hallway, her side of the bedroom closet, everything from her bathroom shelf, the surface of the dresser where her things had lived, bare. What was left was mine. All of it, unambiguously. I ordered food, sat on the floor with my back against the wall where the couch had been, and ate while the apartment settled around me into a new kind of quiet. Not absence, more like a room that has been cleared out and is waiting to be arranged correctly. I had been living in someone else's arrangement for 4 years without quite naming it. The naming had happened on Friday. The clearing had happened today. My phone buzzed. "Vera, heard the settlement went through. How are you doing?" "Good," I typed back. Glad to hear it. You deserve to be. The divorce was finalized 11 weeks later, a Wednesday morning. Mercer sent a text. Done. Congratulations. I was at the depot when it came through. Read it, put the phone in my pocket, finished the shift. That was 3 months ago. The apartment looks different now. I repainted the second bedroom in the dark slate gray I'd been thinking about since before any of this happened. The living room is a warm off-white I picked from the samples I'd been collecting for months. New couch, something I chose without input from anyone, a configuration that made sense for the space and for me. A coffee table I found at an estate sale in Norwood, solid oak, $35. I replaced the kitchen table with a smaller one, right-sized for one person, workable for two if someone comes over. The shortwave radio is set up properly now in the second bedroom, antenna cable running to the window, equipment on a dedicated shelf I built from a board and 2 brackets I picked up at the hardware store. Most mornings before work I spend 20 or 30 minutes in there, working through the bands with the patience the hobby requires, seeing what comes in. There's something about the practice, the signal appearing out of static, the voice from somewhere you can't locate on a map, carrying whatever it's carrying across whatever distance it has to cross. I find it useful in ways I don't need to explain. Renata moved in with her mother in Anderson Township. Last I heard, she had taken a full-time position at a home goods location a few miles from there. No choice now. Part-time boutique hours don't cover indefinite living expenses even at her mother's. Her social media went quiet after the birthday weekend. A few vague posts and then nothing. As for Derek Galvin, his wife apparently found out about the lunch meetings shortly after he cut off contact with Renata. I heard this from Vera, who heard it from someone in the group. His wife's response, by all accounts, was very similar to mine and reportedly just as decisive. I got back in contact with people I had let drift during the marriage, 2 guys I'd known since before Renata, a college friend who had moved to Columbus and was easy enough to see on weekends. I started lifting again at the gym 3 blocks from the depot. Small reclamations, all of them mine. My 44th birthday fell on a Friday, same day of the week as the one before. I noticed that for about a second and then let it go. I got home at 6:15, parked in my usual spot, took the elevator up. The hallway smelled the way it always does. I opened the apartment door and it was quiet, and exactly the way I had left it that morning, which was exactly what I wanted. Around 7, 3 friends came over. One brought beer, another brought food from a place on Madison Road. We watched the game and talked about things that weren't my life, someone's work situation, a trip someone was planning, something ridiculous that had happened at the gym. Nobody mentioned Renata. That chapter had a period at the end of it and everyone understood that. At halftime, one of them raised a bottle. To another year of not putting up with nonsense. I'll take that, I said. We did. They left around 10:30. I cleaned up, put the bottles in the recycling, wiped down the counter. Then I went to the second bedroom, sat down at the radio, and put on the headphones. A text came in while I was getting settled. Vera, happy birthday. Hope it's a good one. I typed back. Better than last year. 1 word back. Good. And that was enough. I turned on the receiver and let the frequency display light up, then started working down through the bands the way I'd learned to do it. Patient with the dial, not looking for anything specific, just listening. Static, then a weather service broadcast on a frequency I recognized. Then 2 operators somewhere in the Midwest exchanging signal reports in the shorthand I'd once known by heart and was learning again. Then up near the top of the band, a voice came through cleanly, unhurried, reading something in a language I couldn't place. The signal strong and clear, no interference, just a voice from somewhere I couldn't locate, carrying across whatever distance it had to cross to reach me. I sat there and listened to it for a long time.